everyone, so today I decided to make a video on interview tips, and just a disclaimer, these are tips that have worked for me in the past, and it doesn't mean that they will work for everyone, but I just thought I'd share them. And these are kind of universal anyway, so it would be fun to share my experiences as well. So here we go. So the first thing that I came up with, and that I think it's very important, is to research the company you're going to interview for. Because if you come in for an interview and you barely know anything about the company and they ask you the question, why do you want to work for us? Then you won't be able to answer the question in a manner that they are going to like your answer. So you research the company, you know exactly what they do, their mission statement. Number 2 is dress appropriately. It doesn't mean that you have to wear a suit for every interview that you go. Sometimes they dress business formal and sometimes it's business casual. So when it's business casual and they specifically say that, that's because they don't want you to wear a suit. So it doesn't mean that it's going to be disrespectful if you do wear a suit, but you're just going to be overdressed compared to everyone else in the company. So just make sure you do your research when it comes to how they dress, and make sure that you look, sleek and clean, and that your hair is not like all over the place. Number 3 is get there before your scheduled time. Don't be there on time, because you want to give a good impression that you can be there before your scheduled time, that you're going to be a punctual person and that they can rely on you, and that all of that transmits that they can trust you and you're a reliable person. So you definitely want to give that image to your future or possible employer. So number 4 that I came up with is, when you meet the person for the first time, have a firm handshake. And sometimes this is overlooked. You don't want to go there and have kind of a dead handshake that nobody can see that you're an assertive person and that you know why you're there. So having a firm handshake really translates into you knowing why you're there and why you want to be there and why you want to work for them. Have your phone on silent, please. It's very unprofessional to be at a job interview and have, the sound of an email come in or a text message. And if someone calls you, it really shows that you are unprepared and you don't want to look unprepared. So make sure you have that phone on silent or even turned off so you're not distracted as well. And it doesn't only give out a bad image to your employer or future employer, but it's going to distract you. And you're going to, be nervous. You're nervous as it is to come in for an interview. So you want to make sure that nothing is going to distract you. Number 6 is bring a copy of your resume. And this is sometimes overlooked because you think, okay, they looked at my resume, that's why they called me, and that's why I have an interview. But this is wrong. It doesn't mean that they have printed out your resume. And when you go for an interview, they want to ask you questions based off of your resume. And just because they're there with you, it doesn't mean that they have prepared for the interview. Make the process as easy as possible on you and the person that's going to be conducting the interview. Just bring out 2 copies of the resume, no big deal, and everyone's going to be happy. So, good tip. So, this one, it's something that I've never had a problem with because I'm just like this on my own nature, but make sure you smile and that you are friendly, because these people are going to work with you and they want to make sure that besides your skills and your employment history and all of that, they want to make sure that they're going to get along with you too. They're not going to hire someone that they don't like, even though you might have 5 years of experience of, whatever. But if they don't like you, they're not going to hire you. They would rather go with someone that's less skilled or has less experience, but it's someone that they're going to enjoy working with. So, just be friendly, smile, say that you're very easygoing and that you're very friendly. And these are things that you cannot, stress enough, because people like to hear this, and it's just important to work with someone that we like. Don't be cocky on your skills. You have to be humble on the things that you do know, and you have to be, even though you have to be confident on the things that you know, on your skills, and your bachelor's degree, whatever you learned in school and all of these things. But at the same time, don't have this kind of attitude like I'm better than, whatever person you have been interviewing in the past. Don't be like that. Just be very humble, and in that way, talk about what you know and talk about the person that you are. And they're going to see that you're willing to learn while you're in the job, and that you're not going to have problems taking in criticism and all these things that are very important. So don't be cocky. Okay, so another thing I came up with is that I feel like it helps me a lot, and these videos that I make also help me in my life in general and make me more confident in my life and my public speaking skills. But this tip is make sure you plan your answers ahead of time, because there's only like a few questions that every employer is going to ask you. They're not going to ask, something that you've never heard before. If you do your research on the interview process, most likely you're gonna read pretty much everything that an employer might ask you. So just prepare for the interview, do as much research as you can. And Glassdoor is very good for that. You can actually research the company and research what kind of questions they might ask you, and people that they write how their interview process was. And this is very helpful to prepare. You read the questions and you look in the mirror and you answer the questions, and you can actually be prepared for it. And if there's something like you're not saying well, just, it's fine. You're practicing. You're going to be fully prepared for when they ask you the questions. And you're not going to feel, a lot of pressure on having 100% correct answer, but you're going to feel confident because you practiced it. Another tip that I have is don't trash your previous employer / coworker / boss. Don't do it. Obviously, you're going to have to talk about your previous job, and they're going to ask you questions, why you left the job, and what was the worst part about the job. But just try to have a positive attitude on those questions when they ask you, what was something that you didn't like about your previous job? What was something that you would change about it? Tell me about a time where you didn't get along with someone and you had to get your point across them. So just, even though these are negative questions in nature, just make sure that you bring the positive attitude in you. They want to see how far you're gonna go. And just make sure you don't go that extra step. Be as positive as you can. And also, what did you learn from that experience? What was negative that helped you be a better person? My next tip is, when the employer asks you, do you have any questions for me? This is your time to shine. This is the time for you to ask a million questions. And this is something that has helped me. I researched a lot about the company, so I'm going to have a ton of questions. So this is the time for you to shine and to show the employer why you want this job so badly and why you deserve it more than the person that they interviewed before you. So have at least, I would say, 4 questions to ask them. And this way, and challenging questions, not just what's my work schedule going to be, or what days I'm gonna have off. Don't ask that just yet. Even though those are important questions, don't ask them just yet. Ask them about their managerial style. Ask them, what kind of processes do they have in place to help you work better as a team? And then at the end, ask about salary. I always leave that question towards the end because, it's always the most awkward question, but you have to ask that question. That's the questions that are going to show that you are interested in the job. Just when they say, do you have any questions for me? Am I hired? Or how much am I going to get paid? Don't do that. That's shady. Just leave that towards the end, and that's totally fine to ask. I'm not saying don't ask those questions. You have to, but just towards the end. So another tip that I have is, and I've made this mistake in the past because I'm only human and I'm not perfect, but follow up with an email. Sometimes people like you and it might sound like you're going to get the job, but if you don't follow up with an email, you're not going to get the job. I am like 99% sure that if you don't follow up with an email, you're not going to hear from them ever again. Or you send a thank you note and, something, it doesn't have to be something very elaborate. Just, obviously no grammar mistakes, things like that. Make sure you put a little effort into it, but at the same time, just, be personal and say something along the lines of, I really enjoyed meeting with you today. I enjoyed learning more about the company. Something along those lines, and that you look forward to hearing from them in the future or hopefully soon, something like that. Show interest. Show that you had a good time in the interview. And that's something that the employers look for. If you don't follow up, then they think, this person was here, but they're not showing interest. So we're going to go with another candidate. This one might be the most awkward question just because you want to be positive, but you don't want to sound cocky like I said before. So, sorry. Be prepared to answer the questions. What is your biggest strength/weakness? On your weaknesses, you don't want to sound negative like, oh, my biggest weakness is that I can't make it on time to whatever. Never say anything like that. Or say, oh, I'm a perfectionist, and that sounds very cocky. So you definitely don't want to sound like that. So definitely do your research on the company, but also, think about yourself and think about how you want to come across as, having a positive attitude, which is what we want. So on your biggest weakness, I would say that you're very self-critical and you always look back. You're never 100% satisfied. You always see room for improvement or something like that. Okay, so on your biggest strength, say something like you're very friendly and a quick learner, and then present an example of why you are a quick learner, because a lot of people use it and not a lot of people have stories to back it up. So for my personal experience, one of my stories is that I had to learn English on my own. And that really shows the employer that I can be a quick learner, and that if I set myself to do something, I'm going to, be fantastic at it. Another tip that I have is craft your story. Just be very, not just friendly, but don't be like yes, no, and just being very analytical. Just try to be, poetic at times, because that really shows that you're interested in the company and you're putting, time and effort into answering the questions, and you don't just want to, get out of there, once you're done with the interview. Just, show them that you're taking your time to answer the questions. You're really you're very interested in the job position. So crafting your story is important, and it's something that I've done, and I think it really helps me. It has really helped me in the past, so that's out there. I mean, it's definitely not for everyone. Some people are very analytical. If you're going for a job position for like quality engineer or something related to that, it might not work for you. They might just want you to, be who you are. But last tip before my camera runs out is look the person in the eyes, and that's very important. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye!